It is September 10th, and that means it is officially the peak of the Atlantic hurricane season. Now, this is based on historical data when we see the number of hurricanes and tropical storms reach their peak on average since 1851. You can see here the number of tropical cyclones by month, and that number is at its peak in the month of September. So this is the peak of hurricane season, but typically that second half of August through October end up being very active, historically speaking. Now this year we have had a total of 14 named storms so far. Only 13 technically with official names, but that 14th was an unnamed storm back in January. We have Lee and we have Margot that we're currently tracking in the Atlantic, and guess what? There are two other tropical waves that we're watching for potential development. So you see here on the tropical satellite your Sunday, we have Hurricane Lee out in the central Atlantic. Eastern Atlantic, we have Margot, and then two other tropical waves. Each of those show about a low 30% chance of development in the next week, but those will be the next systems that we watch as we get later into the work week. Let's talk about Lee. This thing was battling a lot of wind shear the last 48 hours, a lot of wind shear, and wind shear tears tropical systems apart. It disrupts their flow, it disrupts their circulation, and we saw it do just that. This thing was a Category 5 beast on Thursday night, but Friday degraded, Saturday degraded. Now there are some signs this Sunday that Lee may be getting past most of that wind shear. In fact, hurricane hunters in investigating that storm today have shown that, you know what, the potential winds, the max winds right now are actually up ever so slightly from early Sunday morning. Let me show you the track of the spaghetti models. They all have that west-northwest movement through the next couple of days, but then there's still a little bit of disagreement with when that curve to the north ends up happening ultimately. Lee's going to get steered between a dip in the jet stream in the east and a big area of high pressure over the Atlantic. So we do not feel that the southeast is at play. We don't feel the Carolinas are at play, but could this thing impact Nova Scotia? Newfoundland? Could it maybe head towards the west a little bit more and some of the outskirts of it impact New England? It's really just too hard to early to say at this point. So models right now are trying to fine tune when does that curve happen to the north? Okay, when does it get steered in that direction? The general consensus is this is more of an issue for Nova Scotia rather than dealing with making a landfall in Maine, but something we're watching very closely. Here's the official track from the Hurricane Center. Shear is subsiding a little bit, so this thing likely has the potential to become a major hurricane again before it makes that steer northward. Once it moves north, it's actually going to move over some waters that have already been upwelled from Hurricane Franklin and Idalia, so cooler waters, less heat content, so we'll likely see a weakening trend as this thing starts to approach Bermuda, but Bermuda is in that cone of uncertainty. In the meantime, though, very large swells, high rip current risk, that is affecting the Leeward Islands right now, Puerto Rico, eventually the Bahamas, Turks and Caicos as well, and then into the work week as it gets a little closer to the states. This thing's a big hurricane in size, so we could potentially see high rip current threats and larger swells reaching the east coast as well. Some of the peak wave heights with that storm when it was at a Cat 5, I mean, we were talking wave heights that were 80 feet. They were really impressive. But the hurricane force winds extend out 40 miles right now. Tropical storm force extend 160 miles outside the center. Pressures at 958 millibars. We also have Margot. This is still a tropical storm. Might reach hurricane status at some point, but this one, it's a fish storm, not impacting anybody but the fish and the shipping routes in the sea, and that's how things look to stay. So we're at the peak of hurricane season, and we've been watching for this El Nino to cause a drive in the wind shear out in the Atlantic. We haven't seen much of that so far, but we did see some wind shear impacting Lee, and that could potentially impact later in the hurricane season as well. NOAA's forecast update from earlier in August was 14 to 21 named storms. Well, we're already in that range. 6 to 10 hurricanes. We've already had 4 hurricanes and 2 to 5 major hurricanes. We've already had 3 major hurricanes so far this season. So again, it's the peak of hurricane season. Lee and Margot are out in the Atlantic, and much more to track in the coming months.